In this episode, we're talking about what to ask in a discovery call. In a previous episode, we talked about preparing for it, things you can do ahead of the call. But now we're talking about specific questions that you can ask during the call. Now, discovery calls make a lot of people nervous. What specifically should you say, or how do you sound persuasive without being pushy? But here's the twist. The best discovery calls aren't about persuasion at all. Today, we're going to break down how the right questions can flip things around and make prospects persuade themselves. To set the stage for this, we need to dispel some myths. So let's rapid fire myth bust 4 myths. Myth number 1, the goal of a discovery call is to thoroughly talk about your offer. No, in fact, many discovery calls, you'll never get to the offer. So hopefully you know by the title that we're going to be asking a lot of questions during the discovery call. Myth number 2, you need to lead with a polished pitch, not questions. This is a very common myth. They think that you've really got to be polished and refined, that you've got to be scripted. I'm going to recommend the opposite. Now, you want to be structured, you want to be confident, but you don't need to be scripted. Myth number 3, asking about budget is pushy or unprofessional. Now, you want to be conscientious of timing and whatnot, but asking about somebody's budget or asking about their income or their revenue or their sales numbers, it's going to be really hard for you to make recommendations if you don't have that information. So I would ask for that in every call, even if you already know it. So for example, somebody might tell me, yep, my business has made $3 million in the last year. 80% of that has come from coaching. So during the discovery call, I'll ask them specifics. So I'll say, all right, so you mentioned that you make about $3 million a year in your business and about 80% of that comes from coaching. What does that coaching package look like? Just ask a follow-up question to get more clarity on it, and then they will talk and they'll volunteer more information that will paint a more clear picture. Myth number 4, everything you do should push them towards yes. So I like the idea of having yes momentum. But in a discovery call, we're going to start out by doing a lot less talking and asking questions that are going to have them doing a lot of the talking. We don't even know if we're going to be making an offer. We don't know if they're going to be an ideal fit for us. We don't know if they're ready, even if they are our dream client. So we need to cross a lot of bridges before we're sure that we want them to say yes to our service. Have you ever been to a doctor where they don't ask a lot of questions, but they're really quick to prescribe, like a medicine or a procedure or something like that? In those cases, it's like the first thing that I want to do is get a second opinion, because I don't feel like they really know me or understand my situation. It doesn't have to be in a medical situation. It can be a business coach or any scenario where if I'm looking for advice or I'm looking for help, if that person already knows what the solution is before they've even asked me any questions, I know to just throw that advice out the window. So in my mind, even if I'm ready to buy something, I'm ready to invest in a solution, I need to have confidence in that solution, and I need to really be convinced that solution matches my needs and my scenario. So even though a discovery call can also be called a sales call, I want you to think of yourself as not a salesman, but as a consultant, right? You're there to give advice, but you really need to understand. Before you can give valuable advice, you need to understand their situation. So you're going to be asking calls that explore where are they currently and what are they trying to do. So where are they now and where do they want to be? And what have they tried? What have they tried to get there? What challenges and setbacks have they faced? Why do they think it hasn't worked? What do they think they should be doing? What do they want to try next? And as you start to paint that picture, you can ask them questions about your own strategy. Like, why are you exploring my strategy? What is it about this strategy that you think might have the answer? So a lot better than getting yes or no answers, even if you're building yes momentum, is to answer open-ended questions. Ask them questions that'll have them explain and really explore their answers. Now, if you show curiosity or interest in their business, interest in their problems, interest in their goals, if you show that you understand where they're at, these are going to take steps in having them build confidence in you as this consultant. So let's paint this picture. Okay, so if we've got this path, and step number 1 is to find out where they are. Step number 2 is to find out, okay, what do they want? What are their goals? So then you need to really address what is the gap, right? What's separating where they are to where they want to be, and asking questions that can really clearly define what is that gap? What's holding them back? It's also important to ask questions to find out how important that goal is, because they can acknowledge that there is a gap there. What are they willing to do to accomplish that goal? Or is that just a dream goal, but they don't really think it's realistic? Or if they go another year without accomplishing that goal, they'll actually be fine. Maybe there are other goals that they have that right now are a higher priority, and so this one is a great goal, but it's not something they're focused on right now. What if the prospect gives vague answers? How do I dig deeper? So this doesn't always work, but what I try to do is I reflect back and say, well, I admit that I'm wanting to go a little bit deeper. The reason I'm asking this question is because, and you can explain the why behind your question. Once they know that you care and that you're trying to figure something out, they'll be more clear on the answer that they give. How do I know if someone is actually ready to move forward? Well, if you get to a point where you've got an answer to all these questions and really have clarity, you know what their goal is, you know how urgent they want to achieve that goal, you know what's holding them back, and you've even started to discuss your solution and even let them know that you have a solution that can help them accomplish their goal. How do you know if they're ready? You can ask that question in a variety of ways. You could say, how interested are you in moving forward with a strategy like this? Or when would the timing be right for you to move forward on a strategy like this? I mean, that's a closing question, but it takes the pressure off. It's putting it back on them like, hey, you guys are in control. When is the timing right, or is this something you're interested in? Instead of saying like, so do you guys want to buy? Or so what's your credit card number? So asking questions is one of the best things that you can do to have an amazing discovery call. There's something else amazing that you can do, and that's the pre-frame. Right? Having people arrive to the strategy call very prepared. And one of the best ways you can do that is through authority marketing. It just changes the whole conversation. It changes the way that clients are prepared. It even changes the type of clients that are scheduling these calls with you. So I'm going to link to another video right there. I go into great detail. It's called What is Authority Marketing? I highly recommend you watch that video next.